Hey everybody, it's Gary Bennett, Parker Bennett, Tractor Whisperer. I got several projects going on here at the shop. I've got a tractor project where fuel leaked out of a tractor. The owner filled it back up with fuel, wouldn't crank. Of course, it's a diesel, he didn't know how to prime it. So he tried to start it with ether for it to pick up the prime, and he's busted the pistons. He did that several years ago, and he just let the tractor sit out in the woods. I actually wound up looking at the tractor for repair and talked to him about money that he's going to have to spend on it. And he didn't want to go in the motor, so he wanted to sell it, so I bought it, brought it here. Mechanically, it's a pretty nice tractor. I thought it was an interesting project, and I'll show you where I am now. So here we go. Here's the 245. I've already pulled the engine off of it, split it, and I've got it over here on the engine stand. So I'll show you the process. I've prepped a lot of it. I'm gonna pull the oil pan, I'm gonna pull the head, and we'll check it out and just see how it's gonna look. So I'll try to show you some of the things I'm doing as I go. So here we are. Right now I'm putting the floor jack underneath the oil pan. They're very heavy. I've had people let them fall to the ground on concrete and they're cast and it cracked the ears of the pan, ruin them. They're expensive too. This one's coming right down, so I might need to reposition my jack a little bit. I put my hand on it, but I've been kind of balanced it. There she comes. There she comes. Okay, that's got the oil pan off. I actually anticipate the bearings to be in pretty good shape. And maybe even the cylinder walls on the tractor. But we don't know till we get in it. So, alright. Next step will be the head. I've got the injection lines off already. Injectors out. The nuts on some of these engines, they're 11/16 and the bolts are 5/8. The earlier models, well, it's a 3152, same motor, but it's indirect injected. It'll have they're the same size. Nuts and bolt. I got my 3/4 inch drive impact. Plus I put a fresh battery on it too, so. turns a little ways and stops. Worried about it breaking off. Man, that is crazy. Guys, you never know about a tractor. And I don't know if I got red Loctite, I don't know what I got, but this bolt actually turned about halfway out. Now I got to decide what's my best choice going forward. This bolt right here. It's clearly, I'll show you. See the gap underneath it? It come up, but then it stopped, and it struggled even to break loose. This bolt right here did the same thing. And it's not wanting to turn either. It's possible. I don't think it's unscrewed. I thought this one was out. But that one, looks like to me this one got like 3/8 of an inch left to go too. Wow. I'm looking at the bolts here, a few of them. I don't really see anything unusual. This is one of them that was done to the rocker arm assembly. It does have some rust and stuff on it, but I can't really tell if it's locked tight on it or not. I don't think I ever had one to do this. That bolt there, you see it? It's corroded, but I can't tell if that's, if they put so much Loctite on it, it's tried to seize the bolt, and then why did it stop after it started? In the back of my mind, I'm thinking, if these things don't start cooperating pretty quick, I'm worried about they're gonna break. And if they're stuck, they're probably stuck in the head, not in the threads. So, I need to think about it. If I heat the bolt, it's going to lose the tensile strength it has in it. And because it's in that cast iron, I think it's going to cool quickly. If it cools fast, it will harden and snap like a piece of glass when I put pressure on it. I have hooked batteries to a load like this to try to put a positive cable here and a ground cable here and hook it to a, well, actually hook a ground to the block, hook positive negative to a battery, and then hook a positive to right here, and come back with the ground and jab it into the block. So it tries to conduct electricity through this connection of this bolt, and it'll break the rust loose. These two studs right here, they're going through the block too. But most of these other bolts come out, one or two. I think this one come out pretty hard. But it come out. And as this one did, it's hard. Dang, it's a lot of clearance there. There's zero clearance on these. There must be some, because that bolt's wet and it's coming up. The one thing about it for sure, you're never too old to learn, and don't ever think you've seen them all. I've had bolts stuck in holes before, but I had never had a head bolt under all that oil that it's subjected to be like this. Well, I see my liquid wrench around the bolt stem moving a lot. There's all sorts of Loctite out there. There's a green Loctite, it's a penetrating Loctite. It's basically used for shaft seals, like to hold a piece of bronze bushing inside a bearing race or something. But that stuff, if somebody used it on these bolts, you might break them off. But the only way to get them loose is heat. And like I say, I'm not even sure the type of Loctite is it, but I had never seen this either. I'm tempted to, so let's give her a try. As much mass as there is in this head, I don't really think I've done much yet. I'm trying to keep as much heat off that bolt as I can. Oh, it's moving. I feel the head moving a little bit too. I hope y'all saw what was coming out of that head right there around these bolts. That's hot. Don't take me long to look at a hot bolt. Well guys, you saw a mean one. Let me lay this bolt to one side and keep it definitely separate. This one too. Of course, I hadn't had heat on this one or this one. So this material right here, that powder, there's no doubt in my mind that that's Loctite. Right there, all of that. And I was fortunate enough, the heat did the trick. So there you go. Good old tractor help red wrench. they're hard to beat. You can't do this kind of work without one. Really any kind of work, especially tractor type work. Everything on a tractor is rusted and stuck. And it's just part of the process. You should expect it to be hard. We got our head off. I feel a lip in the cylinder sleeves, it appears to be anyway. You want it here? Yeah, thank you. Okay. Right now, this little leg is a leg that very important. It supports this little sump pickup. If they break, this little support leg breaks, this tube will break. If that tube breaks, it'll suck air and not oil, and you're in trouble. It'll ruin your motor. So this is an important support. I have taken many of them apart, and they'd be broken. I can see stress cracks in the tube. I don't think I've ever, well, I've taken one apart that the owner knew the tractor lost oil pressure. There it is. He cut it off and he actually saved his motor, but it's because that tube broke. So I'm pulling the oil pump off. I'm gonna push the pistons out the top. And this particular piece, this pickup tube, it's got to go in at the same time you tighten the oil pump down. So I'm going to loosen it up so I can get the oil pump out of the way. This tractor, by the way, I did crank it. It held good oil pressure. So I'm anticipating that the bearings, I don't think they're too bad. It's never run low oil that I'm aware of. So it's trapped in there, so that's not a problem. Loosen the pump up, we'll be able to get it out. All right, we've undone put our pistons out. They're all over here. It surprised me. Bearings look good. That's number 2 is bad. It actually melted in there. Crankshaft, bad, severely. So who knows why, but the oil pump sits here on these motors. Usually when a rod bearing goes bad, it's one furthest away from the oil pumps. So something unusual happened here on this number 2 cylinder. So we're going to go ahead and pull the crank out of it and then go from there. I got the motor. There's a sleeve behind here. You got to pull it back. If you don't pull it back, you can't see the notch on the cam, but it's right above the keyway. There's a notch there lined up. Rotate it around. You see the notch, the mark, and the cams lined up. And also you see the female here on the pump is lined up with the male. If you notice on this one, it's male and female. Same way here, male, female. Now I'm gonna pull this gear off the pump. It'll only go on one way. So because of this pin, we'll be good. I'm gonna pull the pump off the motor. This idler pulley, I I'll probably pull it out too, and we'll go from there. Hello everybody, it's Gary Bennett, Parker Bennett, Tractor Whisperer. I wanted to conclude this portion of the video on the 245 Massey Ferguson. I expected this tractor, somebody tried to crank it with ether, so I expected it to have busted pistons and a good bottom end in the motor. That's Perkins 3152 45 horsepower diesel. But you always take risks. This is my tractor. I'd actually purchased it from a seller that had been sitting for a while, and bottom line, he didn't know what was wrong with it. But when I took the motor apart, it had a bad crankshaft in it. Number 2 connecting rod was spun, so the bearings is bad, so the crankshaft's going to have to be turned. The cylinders were worn much worse than I would anticipate for a tractor with this many hours on it. And several things that I found is just poor maintenance items. So I've carried the block, the head, the crankshaft to a machine shop to have the work done. I'm gonna have them put the sleeves in it while they got it there and batten the engine. I'm gonna just start off fresh, a complete overhaul on this thing. I'll show you something else on this one too when we took it apart. Right here's the pressure plate that come out of it. It's in very good condition. These bolts right here, these are bolts that you have to put in order to disassemble the pressure plate. The factory calls them transport bolts. So the clutch couldn't have been grabbing by much. The disc is in excellent condition. So work has been performed on this tractor by less than stellar mechanics. So I'm going to fix the portions that they've touched, which is basically up front here. You will see the assembly of this tractor going back together, anticipating it making a really nice tractor. More work than I anticipated having to do to it, but it is what it is. So I wanted to conclude the first part, the disassembly, and also normally I'd put the sleeves in it here, but the crank needs to be turned. There's so many things going on with it. Also, the 45 horsepower 3152 has restrictor ports in the top of the head to ensure the water flow so the tractor doesn't run hot and it keeps even flow in the head. And I'm suspicious of one of those needing to be pressed out and replaced, so I got the machine shop having that checked too. So look forward to the next video and putting this back together on a positive note. So it's Gary Bennett. Thanks. Have a good day. Bye-bye.